Okay, this video already has voiceover, but I'm going to do another one because I think it will be advantageous to do so. All right, what I'm doing here is, let me turn it up a little bit so you can hear simultaneously. I'm describing what I mean by the phenomenology of dysgraphia. And when I describe it in this particular video, I sort of emphasize the psychological aspect of it as well as the just merely physical difficulties of, going through the motions of writing. But in fact, by phenomenology, I have much more in mind. I really mean a way of processing the world, a way of being able to transform the objects of one's experience into language and expression, and to present those ideas to someone, particularly to someone who doesn't share the same set of parameters for writing and for processing visual material, because it's not just writing, it's also reading. If I see a word that I'm not familiar with, and I don't understand the gestalt of that word, I won't be able to pronounce it or really interpret it until I spend a lot of time getting its shape, because I read more by the holistic shape of the word rather than by a series of graphic representations of letters. So that's more what I really had in mind for phenomenology of dysgraphia. And okay, so at this point, let me jump ahead because I'm a little bit behind in the narration here. At this point, what I'm describing is I'm trying to describe what I did in the last exercise, which has to do with a particular history in relationship to a graduate school letter. And I described how I, went through that process, and that I traced back, or I drew backwards this last name. In this case, I chose Frank Zappa, and I drew Zappa backwards. And I was pretty satisfied with that. So I'm describing how, in the process of doing that exercise, I noticed that there were a lot of Frank Zappa signatures for sale online. And here I'm saying, it occurred to me that I could, never mind about the graduate school thing, but at this point I could probably make some money by, copying Frank Zappa signatures and other signatures as well, obviously, and selling them online. So here you see me switching the visual image. I've flipped it upside down, and I'm attempting to add something to the mix to get it even further away from looking like something like letters, and hoping that in the process of making it more distant from letters, that I can leave some of that phenomenology of dysgraphia behind. So that's basically the strategy that I'm working with here, all right? And I'm describing that process, and then I'm also conjecturing that I may have misconceptualized the relationship between the image that I'm going to copy and the way that it's going to turn out on the paper spatially. So I have already suggested this idea, I may have to go back and do it again. And here I am, I'm actually doing the drawing, right? So this is the upside down image, and I'm trying to draw it in reverse. So upside down and backwards. I can see why they can get money for this one. And here I'm describing, a certain amount of difficulty that I'm having in doing the drawing, and putting that in the context of making money from the image. Now, since I'm filming this at the same time, you see that I was trying to draw and film, and then that's kind of like splitting one's mind. And so not everything is always in focus. I didn't mention that the first time, but, oh, there we go. That's what you're seeing here. So I'm comparing the images. And now this is really interesting, because what I don't notice while I'm comparing the images, is that I actually drew the wrong word. I thought that I was drawing the pizza, but I actually drew the franc. And I haven't even recognized that yet. So I'm still comparing, and I haven't actually recognized that I drew the wrong word. I'm still talking about backwards pizzas, but I should be talking about upside down backwards francs. Here we go. All right, I'm going to try it again. And here I'm drawing again. Now remember, I still think I'm drawing the last name. I still think I'm drawing Zappa, the pizza version of Zappa. But again, once again, and this is the second time I've done it, I'm actually drawing the franc.
Now, the one that they're selling on eBay, they're selling for $3.19.
It may have been $3.19. I have trouble remembering numbers unless they're very significant to me. So I just made that number up. I do remember that it was $3 and some cents, but numbers is another one of my quirks. I can't remember numbers in sequence. So that $3.19 is just something I filled in with. You get used to doing that. If you have a disability, you just you make stuff up because you can never do it correctly. A lot of times, if I have to fill out a form, I'll tell people, I'll say, I can't remember. I'll try, but I know I'm going to get it wrong if I don't have the information in front of me.
Okay, so I misconceptualized that. So anyway,
there we go.
I got my first practice run that.
All right, so you can see now I'm finally realizing that I wrote the wrong word, that I misconceptualized the relationship there. Now I'm examining the franc to the franc, and noticing that I did a pretty good job, and arguing that would probably be worth about 45 cents.